Back in the book of 2 Samuel, we considered how David wanted to build the temple of the Lord, but God would not allow him to do it because of the fact that he had shed so much blood. And we noted at the time that David's response was not to simply throw his toys out of the pram, but instead to ask the question, how can I set my son up for success? He devoted himself to winning wars and gaining wealth so that Solomon would have both the peace and the prosperity he needed to build the temple once and for all. Well, now at last the time has come, and preparation begins for the greatest building project the world has ever known, the construction of the temple of the living God. It starts with Hiram, the king of Tyre, sending an envoy to Solomon. This is standard practice when a new king is installed nearby to show your respect for him in this way. And Solomon says to these men, I'm glad you came actually, because I've got a message to send back with you to your king. And so he sends a letter with them, essentially evangelizing this man by boasting about the goodness of God. And Solomon is not just informing Hiram for the fun of it. This is not like a round robin at Christmas time, just catching him up on the latest news. No, Solomon has got a particular request that he wants to make of this king, and that is that he wants to use the same cedar wood that was used in the palace of the king of Israel, now in the construction of the temple. And Hiram, king of Tyre, is only too happy to oblige. Listen to this wonderful response from him. I have received the message you sent me and will do all you want in providing the cedar and juniper logs. My men will haul them down from Lebanon to the Mediterranean Sea, and I will float them as rafts by sea to the place you specify. There I will separate them, and you are to grant my wish by providing food for my royal household. You know, there are a number of construction projects that were completed in the ancient world, which to this very day are marvels of design and engineering. I said earlier that the construction of Solomon's temple was the greatest building project the world has ever known. And I believe that is absolutely true, not just in terms of its material magnificence, but also in terms of its theological significance. No building project has ever mattered more than this. And it was done with a desire for true excellence throughout. See the extent that Solomon goes to. Here we are witnessing an extraordinary thing. In total, there were 183,300 individuals involved in just obtaining the wood and stone required to build the temple. The capacity of Wembley Stadium is around 90,000 individuals. So we're talking about 2 Wembley stadiums full of people actively working on one single building project. You're starting to get an idea of the scope of this thing. If this temple was still standing, it would take our breath away. By all accounts, it was an absolute marvel to behold. What can we learn from this passage? Well, several things, but for today, here's one thing I want you to consider. We hear the number of 180,000 workers, and we get something of the scale of the project in mind. But for a moment, I want you to zoom right in. Consider the woodcutters in the hills of Lebanon. Not just the 10,000 on shift that month. Think of the one in your mind and picture him there, axe in hand, working all day, swinging thump after thump after thump. If you were to interrupt his workday and put a microphone in his face and ask him to share his experiences, he might well say, you know what, I'm feeling a bit discouraged today. I don't know why I bother. What difference does it make if I'm here or not? Sometimes we might feel like that working for the Lord in the Christian life. Sometimes what we do is even harder to quantify because it's kind of invisible and intangible. Does one more Bible study make a blind bit of difference? Does it matter if I prepare this class for the kids in Sunday school? Does it matter if I turn up to church early so that I can practice music? In the grand scheme of things, isn't this detail utterly insignificant? And the answer is no. It matters. It all matters. It all adds up to something magnificent because your work is part of something much bigger being organized and orchestrated by the living God. Just because the woodcutter in the forests of Lebanon cannot see what the end result will be, that doesn't mean that it won't be spectacular. We would say to him, keep laboring, keep working, keep trusting. One day you will see it with your own eyes. And the same is true for you. In 1 Corinthians 15, we read, always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. The smallest thing you do if done for the Lord, makes a great contribution to the kingdom of God. That word of encouragement, that glass of cold water given in my name, Jesus would say. Those 2 copper coins offered in the temple treasury, that mustard seed planted in faith. These are pictures used in the Bible to remind us of the glorious way in which God takes our small contribution and enlarges its splendor. Let me tell you, God is building something right now much more magnificent than the old earthly temple. Through the efforts of his people, God is building the kingdom of Christ. And so for the glory of his name, press on, play your part, and one day you will see with your own eyes all that the Lord accomplished through you.